So the first of the big games in Pool B, the Pool of Death, it didn't disappoint. South Africa 18, Scotland just 3. And I think what's important here to take away is Scotland didn't actually play that badly. In fact, you could say they played quite well. So the 5th best side in the world playing quite well, and the Springboks still put them away comfortably. They are absolutely here for one reason, and that is to retain the World Cup, and they can definitely improve South Africa. There were things they didn't execute in that game, and they still came away looking comfortable winners. In the first half, I think the big takeaway is territory. Scotland were looking to play from deep, a bit like New Zealand did against France. And I think these sides need to realise that sides like France, South Africa, they're so good. You just can't chance your arm from everywhere. You know, you're not going to get anywhere. And they did change it up a little bit, but anyway, they went in the half, just 3 points down, 6-3, and you thought, okay, you know, this is a fairly close contest. And then in the second half, the first 10 minutes, the South Africans said, no, we're not having any of this. And a brilliant 10 minutes blew away Scotland with 2 tries, and they could never recover, even though they tried their hardest. That rush defence from South Africa, seriously impressive. So let's get into a bit more detail in that first half. Both sides clearly very, very confident with the way they play. But I think the difference was South Africa happy to pin Scotland back with some big aerial bombs. And Blair Skivington did struggle a bit from those early kicks. Scotland, they were trying to go with their confident running attack, but they were trying to do it from deep. It's exciting, but it's a double-edged sword, and it just wasn't getting through that South African defence, as it didn't the whole game, really. Now, scrum-wise, in this first half, it was fairly even to start with, and then Scotland got ascendancy, and that was exciting. You weren't going to expect that. In the second half, South Africa completely reversed that. They put on their replacement props, Che and Nkane. Maybe that made the difference, but wow, what a response there. Anyway, 10 minutes in, de Klerk's service is pretty quick, and Jasper Wiese, I thought, had a really good game, actually. I thought under pressure from Vermeulen for his starting spot, and he responded in this game. Very quick, very dynamic in the maul, in the carry, in the tackle. Good statement from Wiese, so I think that's him starting as number 8 if he wasn't already. Pieter-Steph du Toit to the fore as well. That's very impressive. And I think one downside for South Africa, or the one downside for South Africa in this whole game, was that injury to Eben Etzebeth. I mean, Snyman came on and was very, very impressive, but they're going to want Etzebeth as well. In fact, I think Mostert was really good as well. Just a note here, an early snapshot in my mind that Scotland are doing, like I said, what New Zealand did against France, and they're just playing too much rugby in their own half. It's good rugby, but it's not where they need to be. After 20 minutes, I think they did make the switch and try to kick a little bit for distance, but then the opportunities had gone. Anyway, Finn Russell is trying to do some things. He's trying to be relaxed, but South Africa are just not giving him time to be relaxed. They try to smash him, and they do once. I mean, it doesn't faze him. I mean, Russell, I think, had a pretty good game, but he wasn't being given the time to do anything really special. Now, talking about line-outs, and Scotland, they like to go to the back. They trust Turner's throwing, but the coordination wasn't quite there, and I think they mucked up about 3 of those long throws. If it goes right, of course, it can either get them into midfield quickly or get them wide a lot quicker, so it's great attacking ball. But like they're attacking from deep, it's another double-edged sword. They went for broke for sure, but it didn't pay off, and maybe they needed to be a bit more pragmatic. Anyway, a good funny point at this point, Darcy Graham and Cheslin Colby start a scuffle, and you think, oh, that's quite interesting. Etzebeth's eyes light up, charges in to grab a Scottish shirt. You know, you've got to get that YouTube compilation up a bit. Doesn't come to anything these days, of course, just some pushing and shoving, but it was a full-blooded test match, that is for sure. So like all year, South Africa get the ball wide very well. Colby gets his hands on the ball plenty in this game, but Darcy Graham is a good match for him, and Scotland's tackling was very good, but because they're doing all the playing in their own half, any penalty is kickable. Early on, Russell deliberate knock-on, gets kicked over for 3-0, and then this one is 6-0, so because they're playing in their own territory, it's just more dangerous. Then on 25 minutes, it's a bit of a weird one, really. The ball gets jarred loose by Turner in the tackle, that was good. Good attacking scrum position. Arenza goes for the interception, nearly gets it, and then Russell kind of just body checks him. I think he knew what he was doing. He kind of went down like he'd hurt himself. He probably had hurt himself, but I think he was trying to divert a bit from the fact that he'd just run into Arenza. It was given just as a penalty, but could have been seen differently. But anyway, that's kind of what happened. So I'm not 100% sure what should have happened there, but it was just very strange from Russell. And Scotland continued to push the envelope with those big long line-out throws. One works, and they actually do manage to get on the outside of the South African rush defence once. Big chance for Scotland this was. Graham is free. He needed to straighten and give, but he backs his pace, and he isn't actually quick enough to get away from Libbok. What a chance, what a cover from Libbok, but they had to capitalise there because that was their one big chance, I think. Then just before half-time, massive statement from the Scottish scrum. 2 penalties in a row. They love that, and Russell knocks over from 45 metres, 6-3, a compelling close contest in that first half. But straight away in the second half, South Africa fire back with an early scrum penalty of their own, but Libbok wide and short from his kick, and yet Libbok's kicking and the lack of any really top quality goal kicker is probably South Africa's one glaring weakness. It didn't affect them too much in this game, but in a closer game it absolutely could. Then a few minutes later, RG Snyman uses his huge frame to pop an offload, which he did a couple of times in this game. He's very good at getting over the tackle with his height and his strength. Arenza goes close on the right, and then South Africa just say, let's go simple. Wave after wave of human battering ram, Delande, Marks, and then Peter Steph du Toit, who is stopped, but he has so much help, instantly latched on by his mates, and they pile him over the line. That is pure brute force try. Very impressive. 11-3. Another awful conversion kick from Libbok, so just underlines the point there. But the South Africans definitely smell blood. It's a monstrous counter-ruck in midfield. The Scottish defence coach will not like that. Libbok does a no-look cross-field kick. It's just beautiful, and it lands perfectly in the path of Arenza at full pace. A beautiful combination of power, skill and speed. What a try. 18-3. And understandably, South Africa ditched Libbok as the goal kicker, and I think de Klerk nails this one from wide. 18-3, and that is the last score of the half, but there's plenty more rugby to be played. And also a note here, this is kind of a classic Rassie Erasmus game as well. He's got his LED light messages coming on from the stands, hordes of messages coming on from support staff. He's always active in the box. I mean, they are here for one thing, and that is to win and retain this World Cup. And with Unche and Unukane on a prop for South Africa, they are monstering this scrum now. So that early Scottish dominance in the scrum is completely gone. Scotland try and replace their front row to counter it, but it makes no difference. South Africa could stretch their lead, but they just don't have a goal kicker, and de Klerk misses. But they're looking comfortable. They're well ahead on the scoreboard, and Scotland need to do something special, and Russell nearly pulls it off. He gets a 50-22. They try to do a very clever line-out play, which is kind of a dummy back peel into a front peel, but it just doesn't fool anyone. And South Africa's defence is right on it, and they push them back, win a turnover penalty, and that was probably the big chance. I mean, Scotland are running good phase attack, but the South African tacklers are relentless. The rush is relentless. Scotland are pushing and pushing and pushing, but they cannot get through. And as I said, not a bad performance from Scotland. They threw everything at South Africa, but they just couldn't break them down. And just before the end, Grant Williams goes on an 80-metre amazing sprint. It's quite funny because I said in my selection reaction video that Grant Williams was easily the quickest scrum half for South Africa. I had a comment saying I think Reinach is quicker, but I think I proved my point here. Maybe Reinach in his early days, but Grant Williams, what a sprinter. Amazing tap tackle from Russell, and Russell had a good game, and also he tackled really well. I was impressed with Russell, but it's just not good enough against the team of South Africa. In the last 20 minutes, South Africa did drop the ball a fair bit, so they will want to improve on their accuracy, but still, comfortable win against one of the better sides in the world. They're in pole position in the group of death, looking like they're probably going to qualify for those quarterfinals. 18-3, very impressive. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, because I'm going to keep going with these videos throughout the World Cup. Pop a like if you want, that'd be amazing. And all those comments below, and I'll catch you next time.